This is the Hidden Leaf Village's handsome devil, Rock Lee, and you're watching Anime Egotists. After this, you can do 51 sit-ups or watch all 51 episodes of Rock Lee and his ninja pals. Rock Lee. Leaf Hurricane!
And welcome back to the Anime Egotists, where we're not even strong enough to take on the extra characters.
No, we are not.
No, you got me, Alex, and I would probably use the Dragon Balls for all the wrong reasons.
Of course. You use them for money, fame, fortune.
I was going to talk about food, but yeah, sure, all that stuff.
And I'm Richard.
That's right. In the anime, we get a lot of fights, whether good, bad, hilarious, or just downright bizarre. We get a lot of fights. But sometimes we don't always get the fights we would have liked to have seen.
Yeah, it's especially in the big 3 or 4, however many big animes there are now considered, I don't really know. They definitely don't get all the fights you would want to see.
That is correct, but that's why we're here, to talk about the fights we would have liked to have seen from the same anime. Like, all these characters come from the same anime for the most part. Now, to be clear, we're not necessarily saying these are battles we've never seen from these characters to some extent. Sometimes it's just maybe we want something different on the line. Maybe we want something new or just a different story development.
Yeah, I mean, these could be anything from simple training bouts to full-out battles again that we haven't seen in years or never saw before. So I'll let you go ahead and start us off this time.
Oh, yippee. So, since technically this battle already did happen, but the series has grown a lot since they first interacted. So I'm going to say Bardock versus Frieza. Okay, so we all know Bardock, Goku's dad, and ever since the whole Dragon Ball Super Broly movie, there's been a lot of moments that have changed basically throughout Goku's childhood and everything. But Bardock still dies at the hands of Frieza, or if you want to believe other stuff, he gets sent back in time due to a death ball and becomes a Super Saiyan or something stupid like that. But in all honesty, if Bardock were to ever get wished back to life via the Dragon Balls, Super Dragon Balls, whatever, it would be kind of cool to see how the dynamic between him and Frieza would be, especially considering we all know Frieza's still a villain, but his personality and his dynamic with the Z-Fighters has definitely changed since they were first on Namek. Not to say they're friends or anything, but just to say he's grown to respect them a good bit. So seeing how Bardock would react and basically tell everybody, you still can't trust this guy, and everyone would be like, oh, we know, but sometimes we have to count on him. So just a fight between Golden Frieza and maybe you give Bardock some Super Saiyan form, it could be cool to see. It could be cool to see again. Plus, Bardock could get his payback.
I still like Team 4 Star's version where he meets Tupac.
I mean, yes, obviously, but at the same time, though, I don't think Tupac has ever been in the Dragon Ball anime, but maybe he has, and I'm just not watching the right series. But overall, I think Bardock and a more developed Frieza, it could lead to some fun stuff.
Yeah, I could see them doing a storyline, especially now that they've introduced officially Goku's mother as Gine in that last movie, having them have some sort of interaction in Otherworld, or to bring them back for attempting to be the savior. He's like the heroic Saiyan or something like that. I could see them doing a story arc in Super that involves just a little bit of interaction.
Yeah. If Super ever comes back, we're not entirely sure at this point. Or if they just keep doing movies till the end of time.
Yeah, it's kind of an iffy thing, because they've got there's at least 2 or 3 arcs that have come out in the manga since the end of the anime, so.
Yeah. But anyways, that's basically my first one. What's your first one?
So this is one we've kind of gotten jokingly a couple times, but we never got an actual, or we only got the end scene when they were young, and that's Guy versus Kakashi.
Okay.
Again, this would be more of a training bout or tuning exams when they were kids or something, but all we ever see is Kakashi kicking Guy across the room, that ends their fights usually. Unfortunately, that's it. We've gotten them when they do their annual competition where they were it's comedic and they're throwing pans at each other, but we never got an actual them training together or something, them fighting. I mean, they're like the only two that can train against each other pretty much.
Yeah, I have to agree. Even though I kind of feel like we've talked about guys' survival of the war arc was kind of cheapened. It kind of cheapened it at some points. It still would have been nice to see them go. Obviously not all out. Like I don't even think Guy would be crazy enough to go full 8 gates on Kakashi. But at the same time, though, a fight between them would have been really, really cool to see. Especially since when we all first started watching Naruto, we thought, oh, the Sharingan isn't as strong against taijutsu, but Kakashi would obviously find a way around that.
Well, I mean, we also know that Kakashi can open, I think it's through the 6th gate.
I thought, yeah, something. It's something like that. But he just decides, no, I'm not gonna do that because he's overpowered enough.
Yeah, so it'd be one of those interesting things, just a training bout that I could see them getting out of control, pretty much destroying the training grounds, and Tsunade comes in and just like sucker punches both of them for being stupid or something at the end of it, but
something like that. But I could agree with that. Out of curiosity, do you have any other Naruto fights? Just out of curiosity.
Not on this list.
Okay, good, because I have 2 that I kind of had to combine.
All right.
And one of these is ones that, like you said, we've seen the ending of, but we haven't really seen the full thing. Neji versus Lee.
Okay.
Basically, we all know that Lee and Nedji were friends, became friends down the line. At the same time, though, like I've said, I feel like Lee would still be trying his hardest to one-up Nedji. And the fact that we never got a full-fledged fight between them, even if Nedji had to die, which we both agree should not have happened, it still would have been nice to have seen in the growth Lee had, even if it ended in a tie or something. Just seeing them fight, and like Lee even going in like fifth through his 8 gates, or just the 5th or 6th one, or something like that. It would have been cool to see, especially since it wouldn't have had nearly as big of an impact as he did when Gar did, because Neji wouldn't be trying to kill him and everything.
Yeah, and I think it would be cool if like we got another moment where he gets to take off his waist and it's just even bigger. They literally just keep going, like fall through the earth or something.
That would be great. Not to mention, like, if you're a nerd like me who played the Ultimate Ninja games, you would learn that Neji, after watching Lee versus Gaara, he's like, okay, just in case I have to prepare. And he actually developed a technique that supposedly, if it's done right, would shut off an 8 gates transformation.
That would be interesting. Yeah, I think that they had an interesting dynamic of being almost a carbon copy of the end of Naruto, the original series, Naruto and Sasuke, being Neji being so dark at some points in his view of the world that it would have been interesting to see how once he started coming around to being more open with everybody, how he fights differently and how Lee kind of is always trying to get there and seeing if he can actually finally meet and beat Neji at some point.
Exactly. But the other one, but they teased this fight in Naruto, but nothing really ever came of it. And that's Neji versus Sasuke.
Yeah, really, because they were both the prodigies of the.
Yeah, and there were moments where Neji would like walk up to Sasuke and be like, "Hey, what's your name?" Hey, and like he would always kind of give Sasuke a look of like this is somebody I have to be on the lookout for. And I don't even think they ever, like, Sasuke even says Neji's name in the series. I could be wrong on that, but still, like, they never interacted all that much, despite how big of prodigies they were supposed to be. It would have been nice to see the two fight. Hey, they could have even held off until Shippuden, and Neji could have kind of tried to guide Sasuke back, because as Neji said, Naruto saved him from the darkness, so that could be Neji's way of trying to get Sasuke back.
See it, and it would have been interesting to see a fight between what are the two most prominent visual jutsus in the entire anime, in the Byakugan and the Sharingan.
Exactly, because they kept saying, because the Hyugas kept saying, the Hyugas are the strongest in the leaf, and then Sasuke could take issue with that. And all Nedji would have to say is, well, there's more of us around, so I win. But just Nedji versus Sasuke and Nedji versus Lee. One of those, preferably both of them, just we could have gotten them.
If we ever hear that they did the another time travel filler arc in there and in Boruto, then we may tune in if this is actually listed on the fights.
We can only hope. But anyways, what's your next one?
All right, so this one might sound weird, but hear me out to the end.
Okay.
Yamcha versus Goku in original Dragon Ball.
They didn't have a final.
They had one fight in the very original story arc.
Okay, well, like you said, I'll hear you out. Go ahead.
So in the original arc, Yamcha's actually the original rival for Goku. He's Desert Bandit Yamcha this time, I think is what his nickname is, or something along those lines.
Something like that.
And he's pretty much, after I think he wins the fight. I really want to put this fight in that first World Martial Arts tournament instead of Yamcha versus Master Roshi disguised as Jackie Chun. It's Yamcha versus Goku, and I just want Goku to. Unfortunately, it would probably be a smackdown, and Goku would kick Yamcha's butt, but it would give Yamcha more of a reason to want to go study under the Eternal Hermit and become one of Master Roshi's students. At this point, it's like less than a year ago, I could fight and win against Goku. I don't stand a chance now. Is kind of the mentality I would want them to have.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. Like I've always kind of felt like, even as a joke, I'm not really a fan of the Yamcha is weak joke, which is probably why every time I talk to him, I'm like, oh, well, Yamcha let this person win. Yamcha's so kind, he let this person win so they could feel better. But to me, it's just not all that interesting. Now, to be fair, they kind of made up for it in the baseball episode of Super, and when he's in the Tournament of Power, oh, well, if Boo can't go, I guess I'll go, which I'm going to be honest, he could have survived like 12 seconds, maybe. But I don't know. I do think it could have been a more interesting way of going about why he would want to train. Now, thanks to Toriyama and some of his writing, I'm not entirely sure how much it would have helped, but that's not always on us. We're just making these lists.
Yeah, and again, Goku at the end of Dragon Ball, Goku's already probably 10 times stronger than Yamcha and pretty much every other person on the planet except for Piccolo. So it's one of those. He probably wouldn't stay. He'd probably stay about that same strength, unfortunately, throughout the series.
Sadly, yes. But like I said, I co-sign. I can agree with that.
All right. So your next fight.
Okay, this is going to be a little bit of a weird one, but I'm going to say Nozelle and Kirsch versus Noel and Mimosa, Black Clover.
Okay.
This wouldn't exactly have anything to do with the story, but we all know Noel, the one tsundere who actually seems to be written right, and one of the few I was about to say undefeated, but she actually has taken a loss lately. One of the stronger female characters in Black Clover. And we know Mimosa, her cousin, who's like a really nice, kind-hearted healer. She's good at her job. But the one person who Mimosa seems to really just hate is her older brother Kirsch, because he's just a vain piece of crap. I would have loved to have just had those two take on Kirsch, but I'm like, that wouldn't have been fair. So I want to add Noel's older brother, Nozelle, because as much as I love the elf arc in Black Clover, one of the things I don't really like is right after Noel gains her power-up, her older brother Nozelle says, oh, the reason I was so hard on you and I didn't want you to battle is because our mom died, and I promised her you wouldn't get hurt in any way. I'm like, that's not really a good explanation. Like, I understand why you did it, but it's a pretty lame apology. So maybe in his head he could think, hey, I need to make up for this, so I'm going to fight you. And Noel could be like, if you want to fight and make up for it, I'm cool with that. But you can't hold back. You don't treat me like your sister. Treat me like I'm trying to kill you, and we can fight this off. So basically, the two can team up, especially considering one of my favorite things about Mimosa is she's like one of the few people who was nice to Noel from the very start. It would just be nice to see those two team up. Plus part of it, I'm just sick of fans who think, oh, they should be fighting over Asa together. I'm like, no, they clearly care about each other.
Mhm.
That I want to see them fight together and grow stronger together. Plus, when they both, if they probably wouldn't win because Nozelle is overpowered as hell. But just I want to see them smack Kirsch around because he really he's good for smacking around.
Yeah, I will. I've never seen. What was it? Cursed?
Kirsch, yeah, he's. I think he's part of the Magic Knights exam. I don't think it's the exam. He's part of the arc previously. He's part of the arc
Oh,
before the Elf arc.
okay. Yeah, I've gotten through episode 72. I still haven't picked it up again.
Dear God.
Hey, at least I know exactly what episode I'm on and where to pick up on. So,
Fair. That's fair enough.
but yeah, so I haven't seen him, but I have seen Noelle and her siblings up until this point, and I would kind of want her to kick his butt, but as you said, he is shown to be overpowered, and he has to be because is he the captain or the other brother?
He's the captain. He's the captain.
Okay.
Nozelle's the captain. I don't remember her other siblings' names, but it's not like they matter enough. It's not like they matter enough. Oh, and it was the Royal Knight selection exam.
Yep, that's the arc I'm about to start whenever I go back to watching Black Clover.
It's a pretty solid arc. But like I said, and I feel like Nozelle would kind of have to win on his own because they could smack Kirsch around and be like, okay, the two of us can take him down, but Nozelle's a monster. So it would just be cool to see in my eyes, and plus it could still show, we love each other because we're siblings, but there's still work to be done in rebuilding the trust between them, like something like that. Because
Mhm.
I always felt like the apology and them coming back together was just it felt kind of rushed, and I'm not seemingly not the only person who thinks so.
Yeah, based on your description, it doesn't sound like that's the best. I could see them doing like a Magic Games or something, and random and different squads or something have to team up or something.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, I'd love to talk about art. If we ever do sequels to arcs that need to be fixed or our favorite arcs, I want to talk about that one. But hopefully, when you're more caught up. But overall, I just think it'd be a cool fight. Plus, it's nice because the writer knows how to write female characters. So even if they lost, they would look good. But that's my answer.
all right. All right. So this one is probably 99% chance that it's actually going to happen.
Okay.
It just hasn't because this anime is way too long so far. Luffy versus Blackbeard slash Teach, whatever you call him.
Okay, that's not the One Piece. That's not the fight who I thought you were going to have Luffy go up against. But go ahead.
This one's going to be either the end fight or one of the last fights of the anime of Luffy pretty much taking down Blackbeard for the death of Ace, probably, and making it to the final island and finding One Piece. It's going to be the end of the series, pretty much. That's like, as I said, it's a 99% chance that this is how this series either ends or the final big fight of the series. So,
Yeah, even I know enough about Blackbeard to be like, yeah, I want to see this dude just get destroyed. I want this man to suffer for everything he's done. But like, I don't know how much you have more to ask on this, but a side little tangent: is Flamingo? Is he still a thing, or like, is he still a villain? What's going on with him?
so from my understanding, he actually recently, I don't know how recently, but
You can
recently
put a
should.
spoiler warning up just if you just need to.
Okay, yeah, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Apparently, in the manga, he recently showed up in as having received knowledge of what's going on in what's the Wano arc, which is what's going on right now, and laughing. So he may come back as either an underling for Teach or a villain again for something else. or they may just keep him in prison. I don't really know. That's kind of hard to tell with Oda,
Yeah,
whether he remembers everything or what he plans to do.
that seems to happen more and more with writers we hear about. Not that I blame them; it's hard remembering stuff. But yeah, Luffy versus Blackbeard. I kind of figured you were going to say Luffy and Shanks, but I don't know.
I don't think they're gonna fight. They have too much. They may spar, but it wouldn't be a fight.
Yeah. Or I thought you were going to say Luffy versus the person who made the One Piece rap. And the person who made the One Piece rap, in my mind, probably would win.
That's Brock's voice actor, because he's the one who does it, I think.
Yeah, or Brock, Seto Kaiba, Bastion, Nasawa, like that, those people. But overall, I can understand that. It's a simple answer, but sometimes simplicity is best.
Yeah, and as I said, it's most likely going to happen. It's going to be the final big battle, pretty much, is what our kind of understanding of how the series is going to end.
Yeah, and then Luffy will lose, but then but then Blackbeard will be taken out by Usopp.
You say that, but it might happen.
If it happens, please tell me. I will
because there's because he actually does have the nickname God Usopp.
Oh God. If that happens, I gotta start buying lottery tickets or something. But I can agree with that. So my next one?
Go right ahead.
Okay. This is a Beelzebub fight. Natsume versus Tojo.
Okay.
Okay, so for those of you who don't know, like, the story of Beelzebub, it's basically this delinquent school, and there are, like, 4 different branches of people at the school. And one of those branches is run by somebody named Tojo. He's, like, the strongest person in school until the main character, Oga, beats him. But he's this really strong, freakishly powerful person who's not all that bright. Meanwhile, Natsume serves under somebody named Kanzaki, and while Natsume is the underling, it's actually revealed that he's way stronger than Kanzaki pretty much ever was. And one of the things I find really interesting is despite how dumb Tojo can be at some points, he actually has told his underlings, don't mess with Natsume. Avoid Natsume like the plague, which was especially powerful to me considering Natsume never revealed his full strength, yet he was able to knock some incredibly powerful people out with one kick or one knee or one punch or something like that. To me, it would have been kind of cool if in the final arc of the anime, if they wanted to continue the anime or the manga, whatever, it would have been nice if we got to see them train together when the demons started taking over. Like, hey, I know I told my underlings to avoid this guy, but I have to test myself because when the gang went off to train, they ended up training with one of Oga's teachers, and in the manga, it showed the fights between them, while in the anime, it just sort of implied, oh, the fights happened, but like you don't get to see it. While it was revealed that Tojo was off instead fighting bears in the woods to train.
Wait, so when did Reese get a comic?
Yeah. That's the hilarious thing because they make the jokes like, oh, what? Oh, so these guys, they're like demons. Like, no, they're not like demons. They are demons. They're demons. And he's like, so they're bears, right? And so he actually goes into the woods and just fights a bunch of bears. So it would just, in my opinion, be something hilarious to see, especially we finally get to see Natsume's full power and see who would win between these two. Because Natsume's such a smart, intelligent character, and Tojo's like, well, none of that. It would have just been cool to see, especially since the side characters got shafted towards the end, which is weird considering how well they were built up in the beginning.
Yes, I again haven't seen all the episodes, but I remember you've talked about it before, and I saw the beginning of Beelzebub with you. That the characters were, that was like the whole focus was kind of a villain of the day, but they became the side characters afterwards. Was kind of how it started. And
it was a weird way of doing it, but I appreciated it.
But then, I do remember you telling me that at the end, they kind of remove the focus from all the interesting side characters. And while the main character is kind of interesting, it's not the same when the side characters aren't as interesting anymore.
It's not. The hilarious thing is, it's like the finale that does that. Like let me put it to you this way. the anime is like, what, 60 episodes maybe? Like,
Mhm.
episode 58, 59, and 60 do that. But everything else, the side characters are doing stuff. It's just filler. And like I've talked about it before. It's like we've talked about before. Filler can be good. Filler can be interesting. This just
Mhm.
wasn't it. It was just kind of like, I mean, this is funny, but like it's not building to anything. But like I said, the aloof Natsume versus the bear fighter Tojo, or just seeing Tojo fight a bunch of different bears. That itself would have been interesting.
Yeah, because I could see them doing where he's fighting all the kind of regular looking bears, and then there's one that's like twice as big with a darker coat color, red glowing eyes, and multiple scars on it. Because that's just how this anime would work.
Yeah, and then at the end of the fight, he's like, "I'll be back if you want to train again." And the bears are like, "What the hell is wrong with this dude?" But that's all I had to say. I'm glad we found a way to make this fight cool yet still hilarious at the same time. I like that. But what's
Yeah.
your next one?
All right. So uh the next one, this one we've had a few different times, but well, twice I can think of, and that's uh Senku versus Tsukasa from Dr. Stone.
Okay.
So this is the main character, Senku, versus the first kind of major villain, Tsukasa. In at the halfway point of the first season, they Tsukasa kind of turns on them. He's got a different idea of how they're going to rebuild society. He kills Senku, but they use their kind of revival stuff that has been unpetrifying all the people to, how to put it, to remove the last bit of his petrification, which brings him back to life pretty much. We get the second fight is after the build-up. Senku's pretty much developed a whole bunch of technology over the last year or so in the timeline. And the issue with this second fight is that Tsukasa is betrayed partway through it and stabbed by one of his underlings who's he's not even there to support Senku. He's just there he wants to take control pretty much.
Okay.
And then Tsukasa kind of comes to the realization we might need to have everybody, because Tsukasa's idea is that they're going to just pretty much kill the adults that were alive at the time and only resurrect the kids and build Earth back up as what he views as a utopian society. But he realizes maybe not all these people deserve it in the end. But it would have been cool to see an actual fight of pretty much it's brains versus brawn, and actually get to see Senku using all of the technology he's built to fight Tsukasa, versus he's called like the greatest primate high schooler or something like that. It's because he's a MMA fighter and hasn't lost.
Yeah, I can definitely agree with that. Dr. Stone's one of those that I feel like I would really, really like it, but this is going to be one of those things that I perfectly admit, when I look at it, there's something about it to me that just kind of turns me off to it. And the crazy thing is, I don't know what it is. I just look at it, I'm like, something's off. I want to enjoy this, but there's something about it that's keeping me from it. And like I said, the worst part is I don't even know what it is, but I can co-sign.
I can understand that, because when I first saw the trailers for it, I felt the same way. I didn't know what it was that I didn't want to watch, but then I got bored and started watching an episode or two after it had started coming out, and I just kept watching.
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes there are shows like that. You just don't really know what it is. But I can co-sign. So, honorable mentions time?
Go right ahead.
Okay, I have two honorable mentions.
Let's see. I have three.
That's perfectly fine. All right. Hey, so my first one, that's not how you damn autocorrect. Lan Hikari versus Geo Stellar Mega Man.
Hey.
Okay, so I felt like this one was cheating a little bit at first, but apparently the Mega Man and anime that we grew up with, and the Mega Man Star Force anime or games, whatever, are in the same universe. It's just they're just like 200 years apart. So you'd have to do some work around this because by the time Geo's doing all his work as Mega Man, Lan's probably dead. But still, it would be a nice way of sort of acknowledging in the past and a little bit of passing the torch and that sort of thing. And there are just a lot of. I feel like, as much as I like the original Mega Man series, I felt like Star Force did a better job of developing the characters as time passed. And the original games came out in like the 90s or something. I'm not expecting stellar storytelling or anything like that, but it would just be a cool way to see. Maybe they fight in the old cliche of, oh, we think you're the bad guy, no, you're the bad guy, that sort of thing, and then they team up or something like that. Plus the bias part of me would just think Geo would just wipe the floor with Lan, because Geo's better.
I could actually see this having happened. They could have easily done something where there's some sort of connection in the internet, and that way it doesn't really affect either. They don't involve time traveling in the real world. It's somehow on the internet, is able to communicate with like the computer's communicating with itself in 200 years or something like that.
Yeah.
So that would be an interesting fight, I think. And both are just trying to figure out how to close the portal, and it's just them fighting back and forth in in what would be considered the modern one with probably Lan, and then the future with
Geo.
Okay.
His name is Geo, but you can name him whatever you want. Like, for example, there's at some point where you're, I guess, part of the school play or something like that, and you have to play trust me, the story is better than I'm making it out to be. But you have to play as Mega Man to save the day. And there's at one point where your character has to be Mega Man, and one of the characters, she just straight up says, "You better not screw this up, Alex." I'm like, oh, that's bringing back some memories of high school. Well, not screwing up in the school play, but overall, and plus it would just be nice to bring back Mega Man. It just would be nice. But that's all I gotta say. Geo, that's my first honorable mention.
I understand that one, and I'll co-sign on to it.
All right, so, you do your next one, then I'll do my next one. You can do your two, whatever.
All right. So this one I think you'll agree with, and that's Yugi versus Joey. And I mean, there's a whole bunch of points that we could have gotten this. Because there's the end of Battle City where they battle. Joey apparently wins to get his red eyes back, but we don't see it. So yeah, that would have been a good one to watch.
And the worst part is, it's not even like they did it for some reason. They just did it so we could see a clip show of everything that happened the past 2 seasons. Not necessary.
Mm-hmm. And then the second place I would put it might have been, I guess, kind of at the end. I'd want to see like Yugi versus Joey, not Atem versus Joey.
Yeah,
in a fight at the end.
Completely agree. I actually thought about saying Yugi versus Joey for my honorable mentions. I'm like, no, I feel like our longtime fans have heard me rant about Battle City and the commentary I did about Joey. So maybe we just don't talk about this time. You're like, nope, take this. So I'm like, I respect it. So yeah, Joey versus Yugi. They could have even done it in Dark Side of Dimensions, because in my opinion, that movie just. Look, I'm sure it's good for a lot of things, but I've sat through that movie. It is boring. It's so boring to me.
Well, it could have been really cool. Completely end the anime instead of end it where it began. So it literally ends with them sitting at school with 2 desks with mats. They don't even have the dual discs. It's them playing the card game in school, and it ends with like, I could see him doing Earth to Yugi instead of Earth to Joey. Because
that would have been really cool. Because as good as the ending was in terms of the send off of the Pharaoh, everything immediately after that kind of ended on a not a sour note, but just like it could have been a little more. But I can agree with that. Yugi versus Joey.
Yeah, so there's a lot of good moments that we could have placed this in, but so yes, more Yugi versus Joey, please.
Exactly. And my last honorable mention. This would specifically have to be in Dragon Ball Super, or just a continuation of it, and that's Jiren at his full power, so not him at the beginning where he's barely doing anything, but him at his full power at the end of the Tournament of Power, versus probably one of the stronger characters in Dragon Ball who nobody really talks about, Monaka. I mean, guys, in the first tournament in Dragon Ball Super, Monaka defeats Hit. Goku couldn't even do that with his Super Saiyan Blue Kaioken bullcrap. Monaka destroyed Hit. Monaka made Hit feel so much shame. So to me, a lot of people feel like Jiren wasn't really all that humbled by his loss in Super. So Monaka putting Jiren in his place would be cool. Plus, Goku would be, wow, I'm still not as strong as Monaka, so I have to keep training, etc., etc. But I'm just saying, Monaka versus Jiren would be amazing, and there's no wonder he hasn't been released in Fighters or Xenoverse or anything, because everybody would be playing as him, because he's one of those strongest characters.
I'll just co-sign. I don't really.
All right, you co-sign. That means you agree.
Okay, so my final two honorable mentions. So the first one, I'm just gonna get this one out of the way because I know you're gonna just not care that much, and that's Bakugo versus Todoroki from My Hero.
I mean, I would have cared if you had said Tokoyami versus somebody, but I guess not. Okay, but go for it.
So we've got this fight before in the UA Sports Festival arc.
And Todoroki won.
No, he lost.
Wow, I don't know that. I don't know this series. Go ahead.
So in the previous fight, he fights the main character Midoriya, and Midoriya is able to convince him to use like his full power, which is because he can do ice and fire. But then in the finals, all he uses is ice because he's still angry at his dad at this point in the series.
Endeavor.
Yep. Yeah, you got that right. So I'd be really interested to see an all-out battle, Bakugo versus Todoroki, where Todoroki is actually using his full power. Because, yeah, it's disappointing end to the tournament because Bakugo kind of wins in like one or two moves. And yeah.
You know, I seem to remember we were both watching, I want to say it was a Watch Mojo video, and it was something like, what are the best tournament arcs or something like that? And this was the number one answer, and we're all thinking to ourselves, is really? I mean, Yu Yu Hakusho? Nope, sorry. Chunin exams? I don't think so. Tournament of Power? Maybe next time. But this, I remember, is this the same arc? Because I feel like you and I were both very upset with that.
Yeah, it's a good arc. It is really good, and it deserves to be in the top 5 of the tournaments because there are some amazing fights. It's just that the finals are between two or what are supposed to be the most powerful characters in this class. Like it's literally number 1 and number 2 in pretty much power rankings. And one of them's only using half their strength, and it ends in, as I said, in like 2 or 3 moves. That's about it.
That's super lame.
Especially because all the other fights go on much. Well, there's a few that end very quickly, but the ones that are heavily concentrated on, they get their own dedicated episode. They get a lot, and so it is kind of annoying how this fight at the original one, and so you can kind of see why I want a new one. Where
I can co-sign on to that, and I'm okay with you talking about My Hero. You just have to bring up Tokoyami more because he's the only one I care about.
Okay, I'll for one of our next upcoming lists or something, I'll figure something out for him.
Whoop-de-doo. All right, what's your last honorable mention?
So this is another kind of, I could see it as a training one, and that's Ichigo versus Renji from Bleach.
Remind me who Renji is?
Renji's the red-haired guy with the tattoos on his forehead.
Oh, I know him. Yeah. I like him.
Yeah, they get along a lot, but I could either see, as I said, a training thing where they're both going all out in their like full-powered Bankai powers, and maybe this happens in the 1,000-year Blood War arc that's supposed to be coming out sometime later this year, next year, sometime.
I thought I heard October, but I don't know for sure.
Yeah, so this may happen. I don't know. I don't know the Blood War arc well enough to know if they actually train against each other at full power. But this would just be fun because Renji was kind of the first major obstacle because he and Byakuya show up to take Rukia at the end of the first arc, or pretty much the introduction arc. And Ichigo can't beat Renji. And by the time they meet up again, Ichigo's way stronger than Renji. So, but then Renji gets stronger. So it's kind of like he keeps up at. He kind of has like a Vegeta complex with Ichigo.
Yeah, I can from the little I've seen of Bleach and the little I know of it, I can understand that. I can agree with that.
Yeah, so that's just an honorable mention. It's something that, as I said, would be more of a training fight, so I don't really know what to do with it.
Right. So we're on to my last one?
Go right ahead.
Okay. Hey, this is from Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds. Akiza versus Sare. Okay, so I'm gonna have to go a little bit of the scenic route for this, but like I talked about before, Akiza was at first a very normal child, but who ended up with psychic abilities, and a lot of people shunned her for it because she wasn't able to control it. So she ended up being taken in by Sare here, and Sare basically he has this group of people who are psychics. It's basically a cult. But after Akiza and Yusei duel, she kind of learns that my powers aren't a burden. My powers are a blessing, not a curse, and that sort of thing. But Sare's still trying to keep her wrapped around his finger and everything. And so apparently, the reason I save this for last is because even though apparently this was supposed to happen, but some real life controversies, he's made the writers go like, maybe we shouldn't do a cult story considering everything going on in Japan right now. But to me, one of the things that made a lot of people upset when it came to Akiza was she was supposed to just get so much more. So in my mind, you could have had Akiza finally break away and say, no, I don't need you anymore. I have people who actually care about me. And the two of them could have dueled, and she could have that could have been honestly her big win for the series, like finally breaking away and beating him in the card game. And because Lord knows, Yu-Gi-Oh! Females need enough help writing-wise as it is. And Akiza's one of the better ones, but she could have just used a little bit more, in my opinion.
Yeah, and it sounds like that would have been a good way of kind of going against the controversy, is showing someone escaping the cult.
Yeah.
And all that.
Yeah, not to mention there's a brilliant episode where she actually learns how to turbo duel, like duel on a motorcycle. So maybe at some point in the series, if he came back, because they basically said, Ed, in the Japanese version, he's dead. And so it would have been nice, like, if he had somehow come back and she used her skills as a turbo duelist to beat him. It would have been cool to see.
Yeah, it sounds like a really interesting storyline, and from my understanding, 5Ds, especially in the Japanese version, is a bit more adult than Yu-Gi-Oh! And Yu-Gi-Oh! In general is a lot more adult if you watch the original than the 4Kids versions that we watched as kids.
Though in 4Kids' defense, for the most part, 5Ds was still pretty dark. There was a couple of things that they made a little too kid-friendly, but for the most part, they got it down.
So yeah, this would have been a good kind of ending, I would say, because the first three series are considered in like one universe, and everything else is like its own universe after that, from my understanding. And
yeah, basically. Which I don't know how I feel about that, because I want to like Arc 5 or Arc V or whatever, but I've heard the ending is like super bad, and I want to give the show more of a chance, but I don't like bad endings.
Yeah, they really do kind of push good shows down.
Yeah, I'd rather have a bad beginning over a bad ending, but that's just me.
It gives you somewhere to grow. If you end bad, it shows that you haven't learned anything.
Yeah, I mean, even though most people like, no, the beginning of the show has to be perfect. I'm like, no, it doesn't. Shut up. But anyways, Akiza versus Sayer basically to show her more of her independence and just her being the hero of an arc because it could have been major. Like I said, I understand why they didn't necessarily go this route based on all the controversy, but they still could have done it. It still could have worked, in my opinion. That's just me though.
Yeah, it sounds like a really interesting idea and something that they may even could do a whole video game about or something.
Yep.
All right, so my final one.
Okay.
So we've actually kind of discussed this one at least once before, I remember, and that's Goku versus Vegeta, specifically at the end of Dragon Ball Super the anime,
Okay.
because if I remember correctly, the anime ends with them back at the where the fight took place in the Saiyan arc, and they literally get in position exactly like that scene. It's one of those things that's like, okay, we're getting an epic battle between Goku and Vegeta, and cut to black.
Yeah, pretty much. And also they do the thing where it's where Vegeta's like, why don't you use that Ultra Instinct thing? And Goku's kind of like, I don't really know if I can anymore. So in my opinion, since like to kind of add on to this, Vegeta, well, maybe he hasn't mastered Super Saiyan Blue Evolution or 2 or whatever the hell it's supposed to be. In my opinion, this could be a good chance. This would have been a perfect fight for Vegeta to win. It doesn't make Goku look bad because he's still using a bunch of power. He just can't use Ultra Instinct. And it's a protected loss, but Vegeta still wins. Vegeta still looks good. And obviously, things are different now than when they first fought. Vegeta's not trying to blow up the Earth or anything. So it's not like it wouldn't have led to anything huge storytelling wise necessarily. But us Vegeta fans, we've been waiting for him to beat Goku for so long. And it's just, we want it to happen. Look, I love Goku. I do, but like, Vegeta needs a win.
Yeah, and I mean, Vegeta's grown so much because if you think about it, he pretty much like he was always hoping Goku would lose a fight, especially if it meant that he could go in and do the fight himself.
Exactly.
And at the end of the Tournament of Power, he is flat out rooting for Goku, saying there is no way Goku's going to lose this tournament after Vegeta's knocked out. He's learned and accepted Goku so much. There's been so much growth with him at this point. And as you said, he has a power that Goku doesn't have at this point. And again, I've managed to avoid most spoilers for the Dragon Ball Super manga, so I don't know if they ever fight or if this is like there's actually a fight or anything that happens in the manga. But again, I really think that it would be really cool to see them more than just weighted sparring like we got in Super, where they have those weight suits on.
Right.
And I mean, this was the point where the animation was pretty good in Super. Unlike the first few episodes, they had put pretty much their budget into the anime at this point. So I think they could have done a really good fight, but I don't know.
Yeah, not to mention, I'd love to see how the other Z fighters would react to it. Like, in my opinion, like some of the Z fighters, sadly, just are never going to catch up. It sucks, but they're never going to catch up. I kind of feel like in some aspects, there might still be hope for Piccolo to catch up. Like, maybe Piccolo could see us and be like, okay, I have to go all out crazy. Heck, I remember a couple of us even joked that during the Tournament of Power, Piccolo could have absorbed those Namekians and become basically a god again. And obviously it wouldn't have to go that route, but still, like, it could lead to an interesting power dynamic. Obviously it would have to turn to like a jealousy sitcom, stupid like that, and maybe for like a joke or two, but it could lead to some changes that actually could help, because we love a lot of the side characters are not as powerful characters. It's just a shame sometimes Toriyama doesn't.
Yeah, and the characters that are supposed to be stronger, the half Saiyans, so Gohan, Goten, Trunks, Pan to an extent, and Bola, they're supposed to be, at least originally, because of their being half breeds, they're supposed to be stronger than the Saiyans, but that kind of never seemed to work out, and now the only ones who have ever shown any sign of having the Saiyan God forms are the two purebred Saiyans. So
Pretty much. Well, also not to mention, even if Vegeta got super cocky and arrogant, and Beerus could remind him, but I'm still around, while deep down thinking, oh, I might have a problem here. And then Monaka beats both of them.
yeah, I could
But
see it happening. It'd be like them bringing back Aradel after all these years again. Wait, they did that already.
But yeah, like I said, I can't agree with that. Goku versus Vegeta, but like I said, with Vegeta winning because he needs a win.
Yeah, I don't even need to see the end technically. We haven't had a big fight where they're both going all out since pretty much their first fight. Because when they fought Majin Vegeta versus Goku, Goku didn't go all out.
Yeah, and Vegeta was not happy about that. Frankly, I wouldn't be either.
Well, it led to one of his best moments, but
True, but I don't think he knew that. Yeah, but still, I understand where you're coming from. I can agree with that. But do we have anything else, or can we close this out?
I think we can close this out.
Alright, ladies, gentlemen, and others, what fights would you have liked to have seen in the anime? It could be it. It honestly doesn't even have to be something along the lines of story development. It could just be, oh, these people have cool powers, so they should have fought, which I kind of figured we'd have more of on this list, but I appreciate the storytelling perspective we took. Look, any fights that and feel free to tell us, like, who would you have win these fights, or what would it led to? Just basic stuff like that.
Yeah, and what animes would you recommend us looking into for other fights that, I mean, we covered a lot of the big named animes, in my opinion, and I know there's a lot more of these action-oriented animes that there's probably characters that we would have loved to see fight as well. So.
To be fair, that's why I also said Mega Man, just because we don't talk about Mega Man too much. I'm sure that might change, and some might point out, you guys talk about Mega Man too much, but who knows?
Talk about it more.
Yeah, I'm okay with it. But anyways, just do what you can, guys. Let us know, and we will see you next time. This has been Alex.
And Richard.
And you've been listening to the Anime Egotists. Good night, and peace easy.